इसके पीछे के षड्यंत्रकारियों को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। All those responsible will be brought to justice.
Right, good evening. You're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. Shiv Arur here with me this evening. Delhi tonight, we can finally exhale just a little. Exclusive details with NDTV from top intelligence sources indicates that the explosion near the Red Fort metro yesterday was not a deliberate strike. It was perhaps a terrorist's desperate mistake. Cornered by nationwide raids with nearly 3 tons of explosives already seized in Faridabad, the suspect, it appears, panicked. He tried to shift or dump a crude, half-assembled IED inside a moving Hyundai i20. The device was wired wrong. It wasn't entirely operational. It detonated incompletely and accidentally. There was no crater, no shrapnel, no planned massacre. At least 9 people have lost their lives, however, dozens wounded. That pain is real, but because our agencies never let up, a far greater catastrophe was prevented.
That is correct. 27 hours since the Delhi blast outside the iconic Lal Killa in India's national capital, and the mastermind behind 10/11, as we are now calling it, has emerged. As far as we can tell, the investigation is making steady progress, but there are burning questions that Vishnu and I are going to be picking up tonight for the first time. These are questions that have so far been buried under the complexities of an investigation, but we're going to ask them tonight because every citizen has the right to know what India plans to do next. But first, we're going to get you a very important piece of breaking news. It's been a day of important meetings. The Prime Minister in Thimphu in Bhutan has been in touch with the Home Minister Amit Shah, who's been holding a top-level meeting with his security staff, and he has issued a very, very blunt message. He says the culprits will face the full wrath of India's agencies. That's the unqualified statement being put out by Amit Shah, the Home Minister of the country, Vishnu.
All right, very, very important meetings which have taken place this evening with the Union Home Secretary, the Director of the Intelligence Bureau, the Director of the General of the National Investigation Agency, the Commissioner of Delhi Police. And it's after that, there is yet another message of resolve for India, a promise that those responsible for this horrific terror attack, they will be booked, they will be found, and they will be hunted down if required. India will not end this over here. Action will be taken.
But perhaps the most important message that came out today, the Home Minister hasn't said anything on video today, even though he visited the blast site yesterday. The biggest message and a national pledge came out from Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is visiting Bhutan's capital, Thimphu. He's on an official visit there, and it is from there that the Prime Minister has issued an absolutely stern message, a message that harks back to something he said just a few months ago after the Pahalgam attack as well. I want to play out for you and our viewers, Vishnu, what the Prime Minister said after the Pahalgam attack 6 months ago and what he has said today. There are incredible similarities that a lot of people are already interpreting as a pledge for action. Listen in.
India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism.
हमारी एजेंसियां इस षड्यंत्र की तह तक जाएगी। इसके पीछे के षड्यंत्रकारियों को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। all those responsible will be brought to justice.
All right, well, the images that you're now going to see, and that's a very strong statement from the Prime Minister, also speaking in English, saying all those responsible will be brought to justice. I suggest that that is also for people across the world. This is a statement, I mean, he has been in Thimphu, speaking to an international audience on foreign soil. But the images we can bring you here are of the horror of that explosion, which have been caught on camera moments after the Delhi blast. Cries, chaos, fire, commotion, cars destroyed after the blast. This is never before seen footage of exactly what happened. And I was reporting from this area, but I never saw as much because the area was covered up. Many vehicles have been entirely destroyed over there. It's never seen before video from the blast site moments after the blast took place.
And the reason why we're showing our viewers, Vishnu, these pictures that have never been seen before from seconds literally after the blast is because footage of this kind is directly being scrutinized by our agencies. They've been looked at by the Home Ministry. They will be referred to tomorrow, presumably at the Cabinet Committee on Security meeting that's scheduled at 5:30 in the evening. That's just a couple of hours after the Prime Minister returns from Bhutan. So the horror of what happened outside the Red Fort is very much going to be on the table. These pictures are going to be shared with the Prime Minister as well.
If there was a child.
Yeah.
There was a child I just saw in that footage who appears running to that car. And I just wondered if there was a near and dear loved one. And I'm going to stay with this footage for a moment because you will see this child run to the car very soon. There's that little child approaching. You can see that little child over there.
Yeah.
That is just absolutely horrific. It gives you an idea how this has impacted so many families.
Vishnu, the place where you were reporting from was
200 meters,
some meters from here?
150 meters to the north of this site.
So as you look at these pictures, I want to tell our viewers right now, because like I said, Vishnu, the burning question on many people's minds, I've just come back 6 months ago after reporting on Operation Sindoor. The natural question on everybody's mind 24 hours after what happened in Delhi is, what is India planning to do next? What does India plan to do next? Is there going to be any action? Remember, the investigation is still in process, but I just want to show you what India's response matrix has been like to terror attacks in the past. Everyone remembers the Uri terrorist action in 2016. The Lashkar-E-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed both sort of took responsibility. The response were the famous 2016 Uri surgical strikes. Cut to 2019, you had the Pulwama terror attack on a CRPF convoy. The Jaish-e-Mohammed once again claimed responsibility for it. The response were the Balakot airstrikes in February 2019. Then you have the Pahalgam terrorist attack in April this year. 6 months ago, in April this year, the Lashkar-E-Taiba's front called the Resistance Front took responsibility. The response, as nobody needs reminding, was Operation Sindoor. And finally, the Delhi blast that happened 27 hours ago in India's national capital, the Faridabad Jaish module is believed to be linked directly and responsible for the attack. The response is awaited. So Vishnu, I've just put that out to show our viewers and to remind our viewers, not that anyone really needs reminding, that India has set a kind of response mechanism when it comes to terror. After Operation Sindoor, it was actually set in stone where India has decided formally to treat acts of terror as acts of war, and that dynamic means the sense of anticipation from the public, the sense of expectation is going to be large. Now, we are not second-guessing or trying to interpret what the government should or should not do. All we're saying is a dynamic has been set, and now there is that expectation, Vishnu.
No, absolutely, and I think you make a very important point. And the point is this, the dynamic is set, there is a certain expectation, and I think what we really do need to take a look at over here is when exactly the government is going to do something. Now, the point is this, it's not going to be a knee-jerk reaction. It's not going to be a knee-jerk reaction at all. Anything which the government plans has to be deliberate, it has to be carefully planned, and it has to have a certain vision to it. I think the key point that we need to keep making at this particular juncture is this. Once the Pahalgam terror attacks took place, it took our government several weeks to respond. We aren't saying that this is something that the government would necessarily do, but whatever they do would be based on careful consideration. That's the key point. But Shiv has got more details tracking the Delhi blast vehicle, the movement of this vehicle, intriguing.
Now, we're going to get to that big question that Vishnu and I are asking about what India is going to do next, but I want to put all the layers on the table, viewer, tonight, because we have a much better understanding of how big the Delhi blast actually was and how much bigger it could have been if, as Vishnu explained at the beginning, that big consignment of explosive wasn't intercepted. The Delhi blast location, as you know, was outside the Lal Killa, the iconic Red Fort. The Faridabad terror module had been busted just a few hours prior. About 40 kilometers away from the Lal Killa is where the Faridabad terror module was busted at something called the Al-Falah University. But the biggest arrests were taking place far away in Pulwama in South Kashmir, just south of the capital city of Srinagar is where the arrests were taking place. And we now know that multiple detentions have been taking place in South Kashmir, and a sense of alert has spread to different parts of India, not least Western UP and Haryana and Punjab, which are states that surround the national capital, but many other states, including Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra, Gujarat, etc., are also on a state of elevated alert at this point of time. So this may have happened in Delhi 27 hours ago, but it is a national story. It is about India being under attack, Vishnu. And that's why the implications are national at this time, not just about Delhi.
Well, the prime suspect, Dr. Umar Mohammed, and his Hyundai i20 are at the center of the blast that's rocked Delhi. A man named Sonu, who was the owner of the car, initially has been arrested. In fact, over the last 24 odd hours, what investigators have been able to do very, very successfully is get the original owner of the vehicle, who then sold it to a couple of others before it finally reached Umar. It took a great deal of time for them to actually find this, but it's this man who eventually owned the vehicle, who is believed to have been in the vehicle when the explosion happened. He likely killed in that blast, which significantly, as we've broken over the last few hours on NDTV, may have been accidental. In other words, there was an explosive in the car. The full volume of that explosion may not have been realized because he may have been trying to move that bomb away. He may not have detonated it deliberately.
The man and the car at the center of the blast that has rocked the national capital. The Hyundai i20 car that was used by terrorists in the Delhi blast case has become a central piece of evidence being used by cops to track the people behind the blast. This telling image shows a man suspected to be Dr. Umar, who was driving the car when the blast took place. Cops suspect he died during the blast.
Jaish-e-Mohammed operative Dr. Omar is being seen as a key face of the Delhi blast case at the Red Fort. Possibly his last image is him driving the said vehicle that exploded outside the Red Fort in the heart of the national capital. While the forensic teams and the security agencies are piecing together all evidence, this has put a good starting point for this incredibly big investigation into the terror attack in New Delhi.
Let's begin with what was found from the spot. The car had a Haryana license plate number HR26CE7674. Cops suspect the car was most likely loaded with ammonium nitrate that was used to assemble the bomb. Sources say that a manual detonator was used to trigger the bomb. The Delhi Police Special Cell has conducted extensive CCTV mapping to trace its movement across the city. Here is what they found. At 8:30 am on the Monday morning, the car was seen entering Badarpur at the Delhi-Faridabad border. At 3:19 in the afternoon, the car was found parked near Red Fort. In fact, sources say that the car was stationary for 3 hours. Sources say the driver may have been waiting instructions or waiting for someone. At 6:28 p.m., the car was seen leaving the parking lot. Blast took place at 6:55 p.m. The other key piece of evidence that the car has helped the cops trace is the people involved. Cops said the car was stolen and that its ownership had changed multiple times. The car was originally owned by Salman, who sold it to Devinder in March this year. Salman had been detained for questioning. Devinder sold it to Amir in October. Amir handed over the car to Dr. Omar. Remember, Amir is important in the scheme of things as he is the common link between this case and the Faridabad terror bust case. As per the cops, Tariq was aware of the handover.
The entire day today, multiple investigative agencies, including the Delhi Police and the NIA, visited the blast site outside the Red Fort to collect crucial evidence. Now, the investigative agencies are trying to see whether there were more handlers that were involved in this case. They are also trying to recreate the entire full route from Faridabad to the Red Fort, and apart from that, also trying to see whether this was part of a larger terror conspiracy. But the biggest question is, what was the main target of this Fidayeen attack that took place outside the Red Fort? Reporting from the blast site here outside the Red Fort, Aditya Rajkol for NDTV.
Now, there are obviously many burning questions tonight, but here are just 5 that I've picked out, and I'm sure you're asking these very same questions. The first that Vishnu and I have, is there a Pakistani link to the Delhi terror attack? Now, remember, it is a Jaish module that has been linked, Vishnu, to this attack, but no direct link across the border or across the LOC has been established yet in public. There may well be something within our security grid, but it has not emerged so far. That's the first question.
Yeah, and just to that point very briefly, because we've got our guests with us as well, I refuse to believe that there is no Pakistani hand in this.
Has to be.
There is a Pakistani hand. At what time these people were indoctrinated, who was responsible, the linkages that person may have had with somebody in Pakistan, that's going to be very difficult to prove, but that's why we have investigators, and that is their job.
The second question we're asking tonight, what will the Cabinet Committee on Security that's scheduled to meet tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., chaired by the Prime Minister. It has all the big ministers, it has the intelligence chiefs, the military chiefs, etc., all sitting around a table and figuring out, taking stock of the situation and figuring out what to do. We won't second guess that, but that's going to be important as well, Vishnu. Prime Minister returns from Bhutan tomorrow, and that's CCS, which is routine whenever something big security related happens in the country. But there will be all eyes on this because of how much has changed since Operation Sindhu. Third question, Vishnu.
Under new rules of engagement, and the point over here is when Pahalgam took place, India made it clear that there is no new normal, that Pakistan does something, India doesn't respond. We did Op Sindoor, we hit them extremely hard, and we reiterated that that is the normal. The normal is that India will respond. But again, and I've been saying this since yesterday, if there is some sort of Indian retaliation, it's not going to be knee-jerk. And I think that is important to understand. Don't expect something tomorrow. Don't expect something next week either. It might be years potentially before something takes place, because you don't do military strikes. And that's what we're talking about for the sake of doing military strikes. It has to achieve something tangible.
That's right. Remember that when the Pahalgam terror attack happened, Operation Sindoor followed about 2 weeks later. There was no warning. There was no sense of what was going to happen. It came out of the blue, and that is the whole point of India responding at a time and place of its choosing. So we will not second guess on what our military and what our security establishment will do, but it's a question that must be asked because, as Vishnu described, there is a new dynamic in terms of what India's response mechanism is. And our final question tonight, which we will be taking to our guests, are there bigger lessons to be learned from what happened in Delhi 27 hours ago than just the binaries of an attack response metric? Is there something much more troubling at play? The fact that there were white-collar terrorists who were involved in what could have potentially been a much larger attack. Doctors, 5 of them, 6 according to some reports, who've been apprehended by our security agencies, leading to an alarming new dynamic in terms of the kinds of people who are being radicalized and indoctrinated to become terrorists. Let's welcome our guests tonight, Vishnu, because the big question overall, the overall arching question that we're all wondering is what next? Is India going to respond? Not in such a simple way, but what lies in front of India right now? What are the options? what is, what's going to be on our leadership's mind at this point of time, given just 6 months ago we practically went to war with Pakistan, welcoming Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon, former General Officer Commanding of the 15 Corps in Kashmir, Vikram Singh, former Director General of Police of Uttar Pradesh, and Air Marshal VPS Rana, who's a well-known veteran and a defense analyst. Welcome to all of you. General Dhillon, I'll quickly come to you first, sir. Your reading of where things are at as far as India is concerned. I want to keep this discussion as forward-looking as possible. The investigation into the terror attack is taking place. We'll let the investigators look at, how this all happened, what lapses may have led to it, etc. But from a national security perspective, in a year when Operation Sindoor has just happened, how are you looking at yesterday's attack and what could come next, sir?
Good evening, Shiv, and good evening, Vishnu, and fellow panelists and your viewers. First of all, the national security aspects. See what got seized in Faridabad, the 2,900 kgs of ammonium nitrate, 20-odd detonators, 24 remote control units. This whole thing has a typical Jaish-e-Mohammed footprint. The number of times the car was changing hands. Just for the information of viewers, the Pulwama suicide ID blast, the car blast, that particular car, Maruti Eco, had changed hands 7 times. And it was the 8th owner who finally came and blew the car up. And that was again Jaish-e-Mohammed. Now coming back to the 20 detonators and 24 remote control units and 2,900 kgs of ammonium nitrate, that practically means that particular seizure could well have been converted into at least 20 separate bombs or 20 separate IEDs. And this is what has been captured or seized. We don't know, this particular car was not seized, and how many such cars or how many such packages or how many such number of explosives are still out in the open.
Okay.
If you go by the previous history, the multiple simultaneous attacks used to be, bomb attacks used to happen.
Absolutely. General, just give me half a second.
May it be otherwise.
Let me just take this, my question to Vikram Singh. And sir, my concern in all of this is that we as a country shouldn't believe that whenever there is military action against Pakistan, the tap on terror gets switched off. I think all of us would know that despite Op Sindoor, the possibility of terrorism hitting India was very real. This being the case, what does India do? Do we just knee-jerk and hit them back because they can attack us again? What exactly would be the smart way forward?
Good evening, gentlemen. Terrorism and engagement with Pakistan are two sides of the same coin. It is a part of the information warfare. It's a part of the 5th generation warfare. And indeed, if we address terrorism, it is a part of the scheme of Ghazwa-e-Hind to bleed India by 1,000 cuts. And to ignore that, indeed, would be living in a fool's paradise. And I don't think a vibrant nation, an India that has indeed emerged as a powerful economy in the world, it is the luxury that we cannot possibly afford to have. We have illustrious ex-veterans of the Army and the Air Force who will bear me out and say that we are fully prepared to give a befitting reply, because one is so closely intertwined to the other. We address Pakistan and Jaish-e-Mohammed, we address internal security. We address internal security, we address Pakistan and Jaish-e-Mohammed. And yes, indeed, there is something that we need to do, a course correction within the country also. There are those who address the terrorists as Hafiz G, Osama G, and Zakir Naik is an apostle of peace. These rhetoric have to end once and for all. We have to call a spade a shovel and let everybody know that India has zero tolerance to this kind of misdemeanors. Today, there are those, I'm happy that everybody is praising our investigating agencies, but there are those who question our investigating and say that it was the failure of the intelligence. The Mossad is the best in the world. What happened 7th of October?
No,
what
absolutely. I agree with you, sir. The investigation part is sacrosanct. And while the questions must be asked about intelligence, etc., at the end of the day, this is a story in motion, as Vishnu and I frequently call it. Things are changing rapidly. New facts are emerging literally by the minute. Air Marshal Rana, 6 months ago, Vishnu and I were in Jammu and Kashmir reporting on Operation Sindoor. We saw in real time how India's rules of engagement with terror actually changed at a policy level. And that's the reason why this story and this question that we're asking has even more resonance. When Vishnu says, how will India respond? It's not a black and white question anymore, because the Indian leadership has literally said, this is the template of how we're going to treat terror from now on. Now, nobody is suggesting, airstrikes should follow or military action should follow, but a template has been set, and obviously there is going to be anticipation. How do you read it, sir?
Thank you, Vishnu and Som. I think, first of all, there is, at the core of it, I think, there's an emboldened ecosystem in Islamabad and in Pakistan, which is behind all this. And if we are saying, government may have its own reason not to announce at this stage that it is Pakistan, but it is, like my fellow panelists also said, it is Pakistan written all over it. It's a Pulwama module written all over it. That being so, we can be assured that this is not the last time Pakistan is going to do this. So, like in past, we have had the graded responses, whether it was from the Uri, then we scaled it up after Pulwama with Balakot strike, and then Op Sindoor. Obviously, if you go by that logic of graded response, possibly we would wanting to be much more, and that is what probably in the general understanding of the public would be, that probably India would go many notches above that. But it may not exactly be so. Like Vishnu said, it has to be a very, very deliberate and calibrated action on our part. And maybe that is the reason why we haven't so far from the government side declared it that this is a Pakistani hand indeed. But nevertheless, I'm sure tomorrow when the CCS meets, there are plans which are afoot. There are many, many ways, not necessarily the airstrike, not necessarily there are many other ways also by which you can economically, diplomatically isolate Pakistan. And at the end of this, it has to be that Pakistan has to be made to feel the pinch and has to bear the cost of any of these actions. So that question that every act of terror will be an act of war, I think will be honored. And hereinafter, then whatever actions that are going to be discussed tomorrow in CCS are going to be very, very deliberate and calibrated moves.
No, in fact, Marshal, I think you make
any actions.
Yeah, Marshal Rana, just to keep the strike rotating, I think you make a very important point. General Dhillon, would you agree that we need to not get ahead of ourselves in saying that there has been a terror attack and therefore at some stage there needs to be a military strike? There needs to be something else for Pakistan to feel the pinch. But I would then argue that we've already done a lot when it comes to water sharing. We've said it doesn't exist between India and Pakistan. Economically, they've been impacted by that. Diplomatically, they stand isolated at this stage as well. Overflights from Pakistan to India do not take place. This being the case, short of military action, is there anything else that we can do to make them feel a pinch?
Vishnu, as Air Marshal Rana and Mr. Vikram Singh also said, action will be taken. But the point is, nations and militaries do not take action based on sentiments or emotions. Nations and militaries work out their options and very seriously think it through. And then they take the action, and they take the action at the time and place of their own choosing. And as like you are saying, other fellow panelists are also saying, military option may not be the only option. Military option may be in conjunction with other options, or military option may be the only option. So everything is possible, everything is on the table, and more importantly, it must be hit where it hurts. And in Pakistani Punjabi Musliman pride must be hit. He is the one that Pahalwani pride has to be shown the door. And once he is humiliated, that is when the Pakistanis will realize that Pakistani Musliman, Punjabi Musliman is not able to save them, is not able to protect them. But as others have also said, I am very sure this is not the last one for Pakistan, because the internal situation of Pakistan is so bad that to divert attention of the public.
All right, I've got
from
some
the internal
breaking news
problem.
coming in at this stage. I'm just going to read it out. There's a statement from the External Affairs Ministry spokesperson which has just come out. And Shiv, you might have a little bit more context than I do on this.
Yeah.
In response to media queries regarding remarks made by the Pakistani leadership, this is what the External Affairs Ministry said. This is the sharpest language I've heard in a while. India unequivocally rejects the baseless and unfounded allegations being made by an obviously delirious Pakistani leadership. It is a predictable tactic by Pakistan to concoct false narratives against India in order to deflect the attention of its own public from the ongoing military-inspired unconstitutional subversion and power grab unfolding within the country. The international community is well aware of the reality and will not be misled by Pakistan's desperate diversionary ploys. What are they talking about?
So this is the context of this, gentleman, in case you're just plugging into this, is there was a blast outside the Islamabad High Court today. There was a big vehicular blast outside the Islamabad High Court today. And obviously, guess who they've blamed for it? It is in context of that you've got the External Affairs Ministry now responding to Pakistan and saying, stop trying to divert and fool your domestic audiences. This is obviously your.
Will we
your
do a
own
full
domestic
program on the use of the words delirious Pakistani leadership?
delirious Pakistani leadership?
I've never heard the MEA use the word delirious before, but carry on, Shiv.
This is the External Affairs Ministry being, in my view,
undiplomatic.
actually being more mild than necessary when it comes to dealing with the Pakistanis. But who better than the External Affairs Ministry to put things a little mildly? They've got a lot on their hands right now.
This wasn't mild, Shiv. Quite to the contrary.
And by the way, Vishnu, this blast that took place outside the Islamabad High Court has also killed 12 people. A dozen people have died in that attack as well. It was also a vehicle-based IED that exploded. Some similarities as well, but something that Pakistan instinctively pointed at India about. And we'll get into that as well in a little bit. And this is going to go on, this exchange between India and Pakistan. But the most alarming thing, Vishnu, that we've been talking about it all day, Vishnu was on the ground through the day as well outside the Red Fort. The most alarming thing about 10/11, 27 hours ago in Delhi, is that the people responsible and the people who've been arrested and the person believed to be the bomber inside that car are all medical doctors, Vishnu, which is why this white-collar terror angle is front and center in what we're talking about. Let's put those pictures on our screen of all those doctors. This is known as the Faridabad Jaish-e-Mohammed module. Vishnu, 30 kilometers from where we're sitting is the university that's been raided today, where all of these people have actually worked.
Can I just say that this is the most horrific aspect of all of this? Obviously, the loss of life is terrible. But the fact that people who have trained for years, who have succeeded in becoming professionals, who have sworn an oath to save lives, decide that they're going to end lives, it reflects an element of radicalization and delirium, I dare say, which is bizarre, which is absolutely tragic. Who, Shiv, was the person who was actually indoctrinating them? We have information.
That's right. We've got that breaking. Let me just name all the people on our screen, from my right here. You've got Dr. Adil, you've got Dr. Muzammil, you've got Dr. Shaheen, and you've got Dr. Umar, who is the suicide bomber. But who was training them? Who was facilitating them? Who was indoctrinating them? This is what we're getting from our sources on who could be the blast mastermind. And it is a Kashmiri imam based in Shopian, who is believed now to be the man who was training, brainwashing and indoctrinating these medical students and converting them in some ways into terrorists. The accused frequently showed Jaish-e-Mohammed videos and was actually the man apparently behind what is now known as the Faridabad module of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. It is still scary to say Faridabad module, Vishnu, given that Faridabad is part of the Delhi NCR region. It's part of India's national capital metropolitan area.
And just, a point of, adding to what Shiv actually has to say, among the people who have been arrested includes one person who was actually trying to produce ricin. Ricin is a poison. It can be dispersed in the air. He was arrested a few days back in Gujarat. He is also a part of this module. He may not be Faridabad, but all of these doctors were associated and linked. And I dare say the fact that the earlier arrests of at least 4 of them took place meant that people like Umar Muhammad, who was killed in that blast, after that IED didn't properly explode, but it did of course kill many people still. It was people like Umar Muhammad who were on the run because of the actions of the police and the ability of these police forces in actually arresting all of the others, interrogating them, and then figuring out that there is almost 3 tons of explosive in that house in Faridabad besides everything else.
So an imam named Irfan in Shopia has been apprehended, understood for now to be one of the masterminds, though we can all agree that the real mastermind is sitting across the border inside Pakistan. But I want to bring our guest back in, Vikram Singh, and let's put on our screen right now all of the doctors, all of the medical doctors who've been arrested now as part of this Faridabad module. Mr. Vikram Singh, what is your take on this? This is, this is disturbing at a completely different level. Qualified MBBS graduates, medical doctors, all part of a terrorist module. One of them presumably killed in the strike itself in Delhi yesterday. The other 3, his accomplices who were part of a university between Faridabad and Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Singh.
Gentlemen, I take you to Al-Falah University in Faridabad, and all these 4 accused, 1 deceased and 3 alive, have something to do with Al-Falah University. Al-Falah University, obviously, there's something terribly wrong in the ecosystem of the education system. And as my esteemed co-panelists would bear me out and say that anybody in a university, I'm also heading a private university, and it is the job of the management, the faculty, and everybody in the proctoral board to see what is happening behind the eyeballs of all the students and the faculty. And if there's something devious, if there's something destructive, anti-national, you can know also there are so many ways and there are checks and balances to understand. Obviously, something went horribly wrong. Therefore, Al-Falah University had to explain to the law enforcement what was the reason why all these 4 people were a part of the Al-Falah University and they did what they had been accused of. Then there has to be certain checks and balances and also course correction when it comes to the radicalization of such people. Radicalization is not a process that happens in 24 hours. It is over a period of time. And the demeanor, the way of dressing, the conversation, everything changes. And I'm sure my esteemed co-panelists will understand what I'm hinting at. The change is so obvious, one literally has to be blind not to see the telltale signs when a person is being radicalized. And that is the time to intervene and see that a course correction happens and the person does not become a ticking time bomb, as in this case.
One detail that has also been separately disturbing is among the 6 doctors, there is one sole lady doctor, the lady you see on your screen right now, who's also been arrested from Lucknow, Dr. Shaheen, who is understood to be the head of the Jaish women's module as part of this sleeper cell that has been busted and was responsible for the Delhi attack. Take a look at this story. Troubling details.
Dr. Shaheen, part of the Jaish-e-Mohammed Faridabad module, arrested from Lucknow. This is the female doctor who worked at Faridabad's Al-Falah Medical College near the capital. And along with Dr. Umar, who allegedly triggered the blast outside the Red Fort, and Dr. Muzammil, who was hiding nearly 3,000 kgs of explosives, is part of the 10/11 terror conspiracy.
It was here the Dr. Shaheen, along with Dr. Umar and Dr. Muzammil, used to work, the Al-Falah Medical College in Faridabad. It was here that her Swift Desire car was recovered with ammunition stacked inside, a network of white-collar terrorists, radicalized on Telegram groups and waiting to strike terror.
Dr. Shaheen's father, Syed Ahmed Ansari, has no clue she could be involved in such activities.
मैंने आपसे बताया कि वो करीब 1.5 साल हो गए। बात अभी 1 महीने पहले लगे हमसे बात हुई है। शाहीन से। परवेज से कब आपकी? परवेज से हर हफ्ते होती बात। कल मेरी नहीं हुई इसलिए बात, कल मैं शादी में था।
The father had not met Shaheen and Parvez for the last 1.5 years as they went to pursue medical studies. Dr. Shaheen's brother, Parvez, has been detained and is under questioning for his possible involvement. He was previously absconding as his Lucknow house was being raided by NIA and ATS teams.
आपको पुलिस ने डॉक्टर शाहीन को गिरफ्तार किया है कि आपको इस बात की कोई अहमियत है? पता चला आपको किसी से?
हमें तो किसी से नहीं पता, आप ही लोग से पहली बात पता लग रहा है।
NDTV has accessed exclusive details about Dr. Shaheen and her role in the plot. She was allegedly recruited by the Jaish-e-Mohammed to establish the terror organization's women's wing in India. Its Pakistan arm is headed by Jaish chief Masood Azhar's sister. Dr. Shaheen was allegedly assigned to establish and lead the women's wing of Jaish-e-Mohammed. Shaheen's digital trail is now being scanned to unearth the full extent of the women-led terror network that was planned. Investigators believe she was in contact with handlers across the border in Pakistan. NDTV Bureau Report.
Marshal Rana, basic question to you. It's a tough one. Why would people as educated like this be radicalized? Is it because of imams who are involved? What is it that they would, why would they actually do this? When they understand that the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir is changing, it has to be more than just resentment. It has to be something else.
Absolutely, Vishnu. I think it is, first of all, I don't think this has happened in recent past. This must have been, obviously, if they are through the medical colleges and through all this, that means this process must have been for a very, very, very long time. And so it is not surprising. We have seen in ISIS very, very highly educated professionals, engineers, doctors, part of the ISIS as well. Osama bin Laden himself is an example. So it is not about the profession that you are in. Surprising part in this is that the doctors who are supposed to save life are into the business of taking lives. So that is really, really ironical. But so is Imam. He's a man of God and he becomes the agent of death. So it's a big question to get into the root of it. And it is not something that would have happened in few years. It's a very, very long drawn process. We have seen it through ISIS and various modules of ISIS. We have seen that in all these terror organizations, that the people are really, really brainwashed. They are brainwashed to the level of that where your mind really, really becomes sick. And you actually don't see what is good from bad. And you are ready to take lives in the name of whatever radicalization that has taken, whether it is on the religious fanaticism or any other way that you have been brainwashed. So it is something that is very, very alarming. And particularly institutions like Al-Falah, and there are many other institutions. There are madrasas. We know for sure that where it is radicalization is happening.
And it's going to be
all these institutions where this ecosystem is actually developing must be screened and scanned to the hilt.
And one can only imagine how complicated it's going to be for the security grid to actually look for all of the Al-Falahs that exist in the country. Now, I'm not saying that India is swarming with them, certainly not, but clearly one is enough to cause an incredible amount of damage and possibly bring two countries to war. That is what we're dealing with here, and it most certainly, Vishnu, will be on the table tomorrow at the Cabinet Committee on Security meeting as well.
We'll be looking at the overall situation on the basis of all of the investigations which have taken place. But, one of the interesting aspects of what we've been trying to do is to track the trial, the terror trail, as it were, the movement of that Hyundai i20 into the heart of Old Delhi itself. Our colleague Rahisha Sehgal and Malika Malhotra traced the blast trail from Badarpur to Red Fort in a reconstruction of this route. Do take a look.
Namaskar, आपके साथ मैं हूँ Malika Malhotra. Hello everyone, I'm Rahisha Sehgal and today we are standing here at the Badarpur toll booth area. The toll booth is just few meters from us, right Malika? And we are here, we're going to show you the journey of a similar I-20 car in which the Red Fort blast took place yesterday in Delhi. We will take you through this journey from Badarpur because it was through this area that the car entered Delhi and it made its way all the way to the Red Fort. The car entered this area. It entered Delhi through Badrpur at 8:13 a.m. yesterday, and it was also spotted at various other areas in Delhi, like the Okhla industrial area, at 8:20 a.m. It's extremely dangerous how, with explosives, the terrorist Omar was carrying all of that. This is a very busy route, as you can see, a lot of cars passing, and perhaps we will never know if the car behind us or in front is perhaps carrying explosives.
हरियाणा से आने वाली जो तमाम गाड़ियां हैं वो दिल्ली में प्रवेश करती हैं। इस बॉर्डर को पार करते ही आपका दिल्ली का हिस्सा शुरू हो जाता है। I-20 कार का वो सफर यहाँ से शुरू होता है जिसमें विस्फोटक रखा गया था। 10 नवंबर की सुबह बदरपुर बॉर्डर से दिल्ली में ये कार दाखिल होती है और शाम होते होते लाल किले के बाहर धमाका कर देती है। रेशा,
Absolutely. This car is perhaps, Malika, the center of attention of the investigation, because it has come to the surface that the car changed multiple hands. The car was sold at least 7 times, and it was also sold online. Sources are also saying that that Omar was perhaps scared, that he took this step in panic. This was, like we were talking about, after the terror modules in Delhi were busted.
आपको पूरा ये रास्ता हम दिखाते हुए चलेंगे जहाँ से उमर रेड फोर्ट तक पहुँचा।
Absolutely, Malika. We are now moving towards the Red Fort.
यहाँ देखिए इस मेट्रो स्टेशन को क्रॉस करते हुए जा रहे हैं। सराय मेट्रो स्टेशन आप ये देख पा रहे हैं, और हर मेट्रो स्टेशन पर आप देखिए सीसीटीवी कैमरास लगे होते हैं और बहुत चहल पहल भरा ये इलाका है। और खासकर राइशा, शाम के वक्त यहाँ पर हम देख सकते हैं कि बहुत से लोग होते हैं जो यहाँ मेट्रो से सफ़र करते हैं। यहाँ देखिए ई रिक्शा का पॉइंट है जहाँ पर लाइन से यहाँ रिक्शा खड़े हुए हैं और बहुत बिजी रूट है।
And imagine that you will never know if a car in front of you or rather beside you is rather carrying explosives.
Exactly, and there are no checkpoints on the way. ऐसी कोई जगह यहाँ पर नहीं है, और हमने देखा कि इवन टुडे ऐसे कोई बैरिकेड्स नहीं है जहाँ पर कार्स को रोका जा रहा है या फिर कार ड्राइवर्स की चेकिंग हो रही हो। तो मुझे लगता है इस बात का भी फ़ायदा इन्होंने उठाया। शायद ये जानते थे इस बात से, ये लोग फेमिलियर थे कि अगर इस रास्ते से वो गुजरते हैं तो उनकी कार को कहीं रोका नहीं जाएगा, उनकी कार की चेकिंग कहीं पर नहीं होगी, और इसीलिए शायद उन्होंने रेड फोर्ट की पार्किंग को भी टारगेट किया।
The big questions that also come to the surface as to how the car with so many, we don't know in what quantity were the explosives, but how it made its way all the way from Badrpur to the Red Fort area.
There are a few barricades here, but they are not being used. इनका इस्तेमाल नहीं किया जा रहा है। यहाँ पर चेकिंग हो रही है। ये देखिए कुछ टेम्पोस को यहाँ पर रोककर इन्हें चेक किया जा रहा है। बिल्कुल, और अब तक जो उमर के बारे में भी जानकारी सामने आई है, जो विभत्स तस्वीरें हमने मौके से देखी हैं, मौके से जो शरीर के टुकड़े मिले हैं, जो हाथ के अवशेष मिले हैं, अब डीएनए टेस्ट से इस बात की पुष्टि होगी कि वो उमर के ही थे या नहीं। और पुलिस ने अब तक 7 आतंकियों को इस पूरे मामले में गिरफ्तार कर लिया है, जिनमें से एक महिला डॉक्टर भी है जिनका नाम डॉक्टर शाहीना बताया जा रहा है, जो भारत में जैश ए मोहम्मद की महिला विंग जमातुल मोमिनात चलाती थी। और रईशा, जिस तरह से बड़े खुलासे अब तक इन्वेस्टिगेशन में सामने आए हैं वो वाकई चौंकाने वाले हैं।
Umar entered the Red Fort area at around 3:18 p.m. and he did not exit the car even for a second until 6:30. So approximately for 3 hours, Umar was inside the car. We're standing here at a petrol pump. We're en route the Red Fort, and right behind us is the pollution checking center. But we're standing here to tell you that on October 29th, a similar Hyundai i20 was spotted in Faridabad along with 3 people in it, and it is being told that one of them, who is tall with a beard, could be Tariq. A similar Hyundai i20 has changed multiple hands. It was sold at least 7 times. Rather, it's also being told that the car was also put on sale online. and Malika have travelled all the way from Faridabad. We've crossed the Badurpur toll and we've reached the Red Fort. We are standing there currently. As you can see behind me is the Red Fort, and that's the area where the Hyundai i20 was there. And it reached at around 3:15 p.m. in the afternoon. It was situated there for at least 3 hours. We've been told that Umar, he did not get out of the car for at least 3 hours, and it was right here that the blast took place, Red Fort, which is supposed to be the heart of Delhi. This is the area which is highly packed. Of course, the area has been cordoned off and it has been closed for tourists as well as of now.
अलग अलग पहलुओं से इस पूरे मामले की जांच की जा रही है। दिल्ली में धमाके के तार जम्मू कश्मीर, उत्तर प्रदेश और हरियाणा से जुड़ रहे हैं, कड़ियां जोड़ी जा रही हैं और कई अनसुलझे सवाल हैं जिनका जवाब ढूंढा जा रहा है। सरकार की तरफ से यह आश्वासन दिया गया है कि जो भी दोषी हैं उन्हें बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। दिस इज मलिका मल्होत्रा
and this is Raisha Sehgal
for NDTV.
And on NDTV, Vishnu and I and our teams will continue to track all aspects of the investigation, but may we never forget those who were lost in this dastardly terrorist attack. All that's left are grieving families, all that's left are broken homes, all that's left are people who will never forget the loss of their loved ones. We leave you with these images, and I promise that here on NDTV, we will continue to report on 10/11.
A blast near Delhi's iconic Red Fort didn't just shake the capital. It shattered homes, futures, and 8 families who will never be the same again. They were ordinary people, out to earn, to work, to meet someone, to return home. A normal Monday became their last. Among the dead, Ashok Kumar, a Delhi transport conductor, sole earner for a family of 8.
क्लस्टर बस में ड्यूटी करते थे, तो ड्यूटी गए थे, कंडक्टर थे उसमें। तो जैसे हमने लिस्ट आई हमारे पास, मैंने लिस्ट में नाम पढ़ा, मैंने कहा मौसी का लड़का है। फिर मैंने पता करे, इधर उधर फ़ोन करे, कंट्रोल रूम में फ़ोन किया तो पता लगा कि हाँ, या तो ड्यूटी से आ रहे होंगे वो, या फिर इधर से निकल के जा रहे होंगे, क्योंकि आना जाना उनका इधर से ही था, लाल किले की तरफ से। यहाँ
Lokesh Gupta, a trader, in the city to meet a friend.
वो मेरे पास से ही गए थे सर गंगाराम हॉस्पिटल से। मैंने उनको मेट्रो में बैठाल करके भेजा था चांदनी चौक के लिए।
अच्छा।
चांदनी चौक पर जो लड़का है अशोक, जो एक्सपायर कर गया, वो उनको रिसीव करता।
अच्छा, जो डीटीसी के क्लस्टर बस के कंडक्टर हैं?
हाँ हाँ,
वो रिसीव करते?
वो रिसीव करता।
Mohsin, from Meerut, came for business, returned wrapped in white. 22-year-old Pankaj Sahni, a cab driver, dropping someone to the station.
बस ये है, मेरे बच्चे को इंसाफ मिल जाए। सरकार से यही उम्मीद है। ये तो कह रही छोटे छोटे बच्चे अभी पढ़ ही रहे हैं और इसीलिए अभी चला भी गया।
समय 1:30-2 बजे के करीब सूचना मिली है, वहाँ बम ब्लास्ट हो गया। जब हमें पता लगी तो हम भी तुरंत यहाँ से निकले। वहाँ जाके देखा तो डेड बॉडी पड़ी थी और पुलिस वाले मुझे अंदर जाने दे रहे थे, इसलिए बाहर दिखाया।
8 lives lost, futures stolen in seconds. The blast didn't just pierce the heart of Delhi, it pierced families, now learning to live with a void that can never be filled. Akshita Thomas, NDTV, Bureau Report.